Hey everyone, it's Trevor with eTrailer. Today we're going to be doing a look at and an installation of the Airlift 1000 helper springs on our 2015 Chevrolet Suburban. These Airlift helper springs are being very good at leveling out your capacity on the back of the vehicle. And it's going to give you up to 1,000 pounds of load leveling capacity, so whether you're loading this thing up with some cargo for a camping trip or just towing a trailer from point A to point B, this is going to help you get a lot of the sag out of the rear end, which is also going to allow you to have better steering and braking, as well as get rid of some of the strain on your OEM suspension. Another thing too is with these Suburbans, are pretty top heavy, so you get a lot of body roll, which these are also going to help fix. Well, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get this up in the air and take a closer look. So here's your airbags, and as you see, they just fit inside of your coil springs, and all they're going to do is pump up with air, which is going to fill this extra space in between each coil pack, and then whenever it crushes down, it's going to make the springs stiffer. Now these bags are going to have a 1,000 pound load leveling capacity. It's good to note that that's not going to increase the overall weight rating your vehicle can actually carry. It's just going to be able to level out 1,000 pounds of what your vehicle can carry. They are rated from 5 to 35 PSI, and it is good to note that you will want to keep 5 PSI in the bags whenever you're not using them, just because if you don't, they can actually collapse in on themselves and get damaged. And these bags will be made of a molded polyurethane, which is going to be very durable and be able to hold up for long-term use. And another thing that will allow it to hold up for long-term use is the heat shielding that you get with the kit. And typically this is just going to go right on your exhaust, and it's just going to prevent any excess heat from getting to the bags and damaging them over time. And then what you also get with your kit is going to be some tubing and your Schrader valves. And these Schrader valves are going to be really easy to fill up and depress, but people around the shop, they've had airbags on their vehicles, and they've said that having a compressor on there is going to save you a ton of time, because you're not always looking for somewhere to fill up the bags every time you need to. And as far as suspension enhancement goes, this is going to be one of your better options. And if you like to have the ability to control how your vehicle is going to react with these in place, then you have that option compared to your standard jounce bumpers. But if you're just looking for a base level option to help either get some body roll out or keep your vehicle from sagging, maybe those jounce bumpers might be a better option for you. But today our neighbor's actually towing a horse trailer with 3 horses in it, so this is going to help him out a ton with trying to get that trailer from point A to point B. And as far as the installation goes, it's not too bad. There's no cutting, no drilling that you have to do during this installation. Everything kind of just goes straight into place. And you don't have to be mechanically inclined to do this either. It might take a little bit of your time though, because the hardest part is getting those bags into the springs, which did take me a little bit of time to do, but that's what I'm here for. I have a few tips for you that are going to help you out with this installation. But if this doesn't sound like something you want to try and attempt to do, you can also use our dealer locator to help you find someone that will be able to get those installed for you. With everything said though, let's jump into that installation. To begin our installation, we went ahead and we removed our spare tire and the exhaust heat shielding that protected that spare tire, just to get a little bit more room. This isn't a required step, but it does make running your lines along the frame up here a lot easier to do. Speaking of that, that's what we're going to start with. And there's going to be a hole at the top of your coil spring that you're going to poke this air line through. When you do this, it's going to take a little bit of time to get it to come around the side of our spring holder here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pick, and I'm going to reach up around this and hook onto that and pull it out to the side. And we're going to take our spacer block, we're going to run it along this tubing here, and this is going to sit above our springs. So what I'm going to do is take it up to the top and run a little bit of extra tubing out the side here so that we can just hang it off to the side for now. And something else that's going to make this installation a little bit easier that they don't really mention till later on is that you'll need to have these hose clamps to go around the barb fitting. And once you have that air spring in there, it's really hard to get it in there. So we're just going to go ahead and put it on the end and run it up a little bit, just for now. Now when it comes to getting the spring inside of the coil, there's not going to be an easy way to really do it. So whichever way you find the easiest to get it in there for you is probably what's going to work best. But for us, what we found to make my life a little bit easier is we took this black cap off, and then we push down on the end here, and then you're gonna have to really, really tightly roll this up because this bottom part's very stiff. So, and kind of just roll it up like you'd roll up like a sleeping bag, for example. And once you got that nice and tightly rolled up, put the cap back on, and I'll keep this nice and flat. And another thing I did was I tried to tighten this up as much as I could, put my thumb in the middle, and then kind of bend it, kind of like an arrow almost, just so we can slip in between the coils a little bit easier. And if you do plan on doing it like this, you will need to go a little bit higher up on your coils because you want this valve stem to be on top of the bag whenever you have this inserted. Now once we have that all folded up, we're going to try and jam it in a little bit higher than what we want it. Now we got that into place, and something else I found out that helps pretty well is some soapy water or some kind of lubricant. And also they mentioned using like a tire, like a spoon type tire iron, which we did use, which really did help with getting in place because ours got hung up right about here, and we just used it to kind of press it up into where the spot it's at now. But with it in place like this, we're good to go ahead and get the air line connected because once we start to air it up, we'll put some more soapy water or our lubricant around the outside, and as it airs up, it'll kind of snap into place better. And when we go to get this into place too, we have that barb fitting on top of the bag, plus we have this little spacer here and this hose clamp. So what we're gonna do is take our lubricant and spray it on the barb fitting itself, because that's gonna help us get the air line over the top. Then we'll move down this hose clamp, and then the spacer will rest on top from there. And now you want to press down on that fitting and make sure that your hose is flush with the top of the bag, because you don't want to see any brass visible, because that can cause potential leaks. And that'll also tell you if your hose is cut straight or if it's cut at an angle. And typically once you get it out of the box, the two ends will be kind of slanted, so you want to cut those straight again just to make sure. And then you also have this hose clamp that you want to slide down over the top of the barbs. That's just going to hold this air line on to the fitting. And then from there, I took and routed it along this section of the frame. And then I kind of jumped around all these wires up here and went down this section of the frame. Now that we got the airline routed up, we're gonna go ahead and get it cut up so that we can mount our Schrader valve. And we're gonna go right here on both sides of our bumper, since we have that open hole. And what I like to do is I like to hold it kind of how I want it ran along the frame. And then, so we're gonna cut it right about there, but it looks like we might have a little too tight, so we might slide it up a little bit more to give it some extra slack and cut it right about there instead. Now when you're cutting this, you want to make sure you cut it straight so that it goes down onto this top of the barb fitting flush. And that'll just help prevent from causing any leaks whenever we go to test this later. When you go to mount this Schrader valve up, you want to take and you want to run your nut on and then put a star washer afterwards. And then it's going to go in the sequence of rubber washer, flat washer, then your other nut. This rubber washer is a little tricky to get on there, so you kind of just want to slowly work it on, almost thread it on to get it to go on there properly. After that, we're just going to tighten up this bottom nut. I kind of had it sized to how we have the other valve. in place, but I'm just trying to get it to where I can put the cap on and it'll go flush against this washer, just to kind of keep everything looking clean on our end here. And now we're going to get that tightened up with 13mm wrenches. Now we're going to do the same thing we did on top of our bags. I got the hose clamp already up on the line, and then we're going to just take that and press that over the top. And you can kind of wiggle it back and forth or twist it, whatever you want to do. But this is also going to be this is going to be a good visual for how we want it to be sitting on top of the bag as well. Then you can see how it's flush all the way around against this little rim there. Now we're just going to take our hose clamp and get that down over our barbs. And now we get the Schrader valve in place and we're ready to test it. Alright, now we're going to spray all the fittings with some soapy water and put a little bit of air into the bag and check the fittings and make sure there's no leaking. And by that I'm just looking for any sort of bubbling around the fittings. And once you've taken a look and make sure that you have no leaks on your airbags or any of the fittings, we can go ahead and get the heat shield back into place. And all we're gonna do is take it, bend these two tabs like this, and then we're gonna stick it back behind the exhaust. You have these two hose clamps that'll go on those two tabs that had bent, and it'll stay right there just to soak up any extra heat from getting to our bags. Then you're good to go, and you've completed the installation of your Airlift 1000 air helper springs on your 2015 Chevrolet Suburban.